September 13th meeting of the Finance Committee, 7 o'clock. We will be going by the agenda posted. So we'll start off with review of minutes. We have the June 28th minutes. Any comments? Motion
Motion to accept.
by Chris, second
Second.
by Andy. Roll call, Lauren,
Abstention.
Jerry,
It's on mute.
you're on mute, Jerry.
No, he's not.
Oh,
We just can't hear him.
Just give us a thumb.
just thumbs up or thumbs down will do, Jerry. We can't hear you.
Just give him the chuck.
He's got a thumbs up. David?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Bobby?
Favorable.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Yep.
Abstain. Wasn't here.
2 abstentions, the rest unanimous.
Who abstained?
Lauren, because she wasn't a member then, and Carly. Okay, the first thing to go over, we're going to go a little bit out of order unless somebody objects. We're going to start with the report from the Geriatric Commission. Subcommittee Chair?
Happy to. So as a reminder for everybody, we've talked about Countryside as a group for the last several years. As a reminder for anybody maybe hearing it for the first time, the Geriatric Authority is an entanglement for the town because we have borrowed on their behalf. And during COVID, of course, it was a very difficult time for the whole industry, and Countryside's no different. COVID was a big deal. Where we are right now is that we continue to lose money on an operating basis every month, about $250,000 every year, every month, that is, pretty consistently. There's months that are up and down, but we are a pretty good streak through the summer. We're still in the 250, maybe a little bit more every single month. In this fall, we will not be getting any request for any cash from the Geriatric Authority. And Phil Cermacoli is here today, and he can talk about this, but I'll just give you a quick update. The good news is that the Countryside has applied for some employee retention credits, and the cash has been coming in. I think you got the first quarter's worth, which is about $800,000. So the good news is there won't be any request for cash. The bad news is, from our perspective, we look at it and say, well, the operating losses are still maintained, they're still the same amount. So as we look at this, where the subcommittee met over the summer, we are a little bit out of order tonight because we tried to have a subcommittee meeting with the board in August, but August is vacation time, and we just couldn't find a schedule where we could get enough people to actually hold the meeting and reach any quorums. Our position in this, even though there's really no ask for any money, but the subcommittee, even though we haven't even taken it to the full committee, I'm a little bit backwards on sequence, we're in that position where we're saying, we're really not supportive of future ask of cash. We know you're not asking for any money, and the board isn't going to ask for any money in the near term. But we're in this place where we're looking at it and saying we just see continued burn of cash, and we're highly concerned that even though there's this retention credit money coming, which is probably going to be a few $1 million worth, and maybe you can update on the latest of that, which will carry for quite a while, we just look at it and have a lot of concerns that the operating conditions mean that we're just going to keep burning through that cash. And it's really, if anybody is new to this topic, it's really an industry-wide phenomenon. This is just distressed industry, and Countryside is really no worse than any other from what we can gather. It's just a situation where we're just kind of burning through cash. Anybody from the subcommittee would like to add anything to that briefly before I ask Phil to give us the latest?
Why don't we let Phil give the latest?
Now, the one thing I asked Phil to come in to give us a high level. So tonight is not the meeting we're going to have to talk about how many paper cups and how much linen you've used. We're looking for a very high level and confirmation that you won't be asking for money this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can you please have the speaker introduce himself? I mean, he's a very handsome fellow, and I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Somebody may not remember you, so why don't we start?
My name is Phil Cermacoli. I am a trustee at Milford Geriatric Authority. I'm happy to be here this evening,
And a water commissioner and an ex-finance committee member for the last 80 years.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Being a graduate of Holy Cross, who almost beat BC on Saturday, and but anyway, I won't.
Close only counts in horseshoes.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say
you know.
that. Yeah, points to you. All right. So let me get going. Dave Consigli could not be here this evening, unfortunately. And just so you know, I don't speak for all of the trustees. I mean, at some later date, we should have all of the trustees come in. You should meet the new executive director, and you should have the business manager should come in, okay? Just to set the table. In terms of cash, our cash position is such, as Brant mentioned, we did get the employee retention tax credit. Now, when we met the last time, we had applied for it. It was 1.67 million. We did not receive any approval from the IRS. We did not receive any notification that they received it. We just had a delivery receipt from UPS. So we were concerned as to whether that was going to be real or not. Well, you know, about a month ago, we did get a check in the mail from the IRS for the first quarter. It was $814,000. It tied back to the 941 for the first quarter, so frankly, that's how we knew what it was. They actually paid $65,000 of interest as well. I'm guessing we have another $1 million of, you know, ERTC credit coming in, because with 1.67, they're going to pay interest. We got 8, so I think we got another $1 million coming in. So our cash position, so you know, is our operating funds right now, which is fluid. You know, that goes up by receivables. You pay payroll, it goes down. But right now, it's $300,000. We have $600,000 in Unibank, and that's where we sit with cash. The town approved $2.5 million. Of that 2.5, we have 1.25 remaining. So if you take the 1.25 remaining, the $1 million on the employee retention tax credit, and the $600,000 in Unibank, we certainly don't have to come for money in October, okay? My guess, if you look at an operating loss of $250,000 a month, you probably get 12 months. We will not, I'm guessing we won't need cash in May either. But I guess the point I want to make is, you know, strategically, we should continue to meet. We understand your concerns, okay? And we should meet in 2 to 3 months. And, you know, we have to have a plan in place prior to the, at least in my mind, prior to the Maytown meeting, okay? Even though we probably won't go to the Maytown meeting with money, I think we should have something in place January, February. We should be working on something, because chances are we'd need money in October, okay? So in terms of how we're doing, I'm not going to get into the numbers. I don't have handouts. You know, we know what the situation is. You know, the census, we sent Brant some census and information. You see that. But it's really, you know, the census for August, July was 95, which is not good, but rehab was only 15. In August, the census was 98 and rehab was 20. We did have some days in August where we had 103, 104. But there's just, it's the volume fluctuates. And, frankly, it's a tough business to be in. I mean, you really can't control your pricing because you get all third-party payers. And you can't control your volume flow. Rehab is where it has to be. Now, we need, and I don't have a detailed projection, but my sense is, capacity is 109, okay? And I think it's 51 in long-term, 28 in memory, and 30 in rehab. Well, for this to kind of work, looking back historically, and adjusting for an increase in expenses, we probably need 106, 107. And we probably need rehab of 25, 26, 27, almost full capacity to make it work. What's really kind of happened, our volume from where we were 2 years ago, has gone up. I mean, we were in the 70s for a census 2 years ago. Now it's in the high 90s. But the expenses over the past 2 years, as all of you know in your own businesses, have gone through the roof, particularly salaries. And our biggest nut is salaries. So we had to do pay increases. We had to increase our per diem rate. So our expenses have gone up as well. So that break even has increased. And then in terms of what else is going on, we just had a survey from the DPH. The initial feedback from the survey was good, and that's important for us. There's some, I guess there's some bills in the State House about aid for nursing homes and hospitals. But, our situation is no different, as Brant mentioned, as other facilities, other healthcare facilities. And you can look at various hospitals and nursing homes and closures. Agency help has really put a strain on the financial situation of most healthcare institutions. So that, I don't have anything specific or concrete. Again, I don't speak for the entire board, but my sense is, we have to meet again, and we have to have some type of plan before the May town meeting.
And I would follow your recommendation. If you can get the subcommittees to meet a couple times before January,
Yeah.
and then bring it here February or March in front of the full committee, it gives us enough time to be prepped in May. Andy?
Great.
So I just want to make sure everyone understands where the subcommittee is at. We met as a subcommittee in June, maybe, and I think the unanimous view of the subcommittee was that this nursing home should move toward a sale. And it should do that now because there's a long runway to get a sale done, and the losses are continuing to accrue at $200,000 to $250,000 a month. As I understand, we were supposed to try to meet with you guys again before the summer was over. Unfortunately, we couldn't, Phil. Everyone knows the Countryside Subcommittee was created 2.5, 3 years ago when this funding need first arose out of COVID. Phil was on the Finance Committee at the time and has since moved over to the geriatric. We've all been working together. Best efforts are being made. We have no doubts on that. There is a question about whether the town should be in the business of running a nursing home. It was probably ill-advised to be guaranteeing all this debt many years ago, but we are where we are now. We've got $11 million or whatever it is in debt. We as a finance committee cannot force a sale. All we can do is recommend against further funding. That's why we wanted to make sure we give plenty of lead time notice that we think a sale process should be undertaken now. And ideally, a sale would be completed so that some of this excess funds could actually be returned to the town, because I'm looking at the town has given almost $5 million, or will give almost $5 million over the 3-year period if you include the ARPA funds. So I would encourage the nursing home not to think of this as just additional money that can cover losses for another 12 to 18 months, but that we should start being a little more proactive. I just want to make sure everyone's
No,
clear.
Andy, when you say the subcommittee wanted to recommend sale, that's sale or close. It's not,
Sale or close,
it's got to be
a
sold.
disposition.
Exactly. I just wanted to be
That's
clear
an
on that,
important
because
distinction.
if somebody offered us $1 million,
Not in the room, not in the room.
No, I didn't want to get too
Right.
granular.
No, that's fine.
No, but it's a fair point. We obviously have to look at the economics of any transaction. But if the nursing home were not operating, everyone should understand the town would be incurring about $800,000 a year in bond payments. $800,000 if there's no operation. Right now, we're running $2.5 to $3 million a year worth of losses. That is a huge difference everyone needs to understand, particularly since we've got a high school coming and we've got all these other concerns.
okay. Bobby, you had a question?
Yeah, no question. I just want to make a comment that while the funds that Phil outlined are certainly welcomed, one thing they are not, and that is a solution. And I think that we need to fast track the outline that you just put forth. I see no benefit to waiting till January, February, because as the clock runs, the funds are depleted. So that's just my opinion. The chairman calls the shots.
Well, no, but the only reason, I'll get you,
Yeah.
the only reason I said January, February is we can't take any action till the May town meeting, unless we call a special town meeting. So, we just have
My
to-
question is, why wait?
Okay, no, that's legit. Chris?
Well, first of all, Phil, I want to thank you for coming in, and I'm glad you didn't get into the numbers because we didn't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
And I still, for the record, and I've said this 1,000 times, if you and Mr. Consigli and all the other board members weren't involved, this place would have been closed like 4 years ago. It's because of the good work that you guys have done, the fact it's lasted this long. Okay? With that being said, and I brought this up 4 different times, and I'm gonna bring it up again, because it was a year and a half ago when I sat in that chair, and I told David, when he wanted money that time, and you were here, I said, David, I said, I will do this, but tell me you're gonna try to sell this place. And that was however long, and I remember I was sitting right in that chair, I was sitting right next to David, as a matter of fact, Levine. And I said, I will go along with this, but just tell me you're gonna sell this place. And I'm still sitting here in the same spot, and to Andy's point, every month we wait,
Right.
we're losing more. Please sell this place, Phil. That's all I'm asking you. I'm not trying to be a jerk to you. Phil, you know I think you're the best, and that's why I just said to you, this place would have been closed if it wasn't for the work with David and you. But I asked a year and a half ago, sitting in that chair, I'll only approve more funding, or I didn't mean it that way. I would vote for, certainly not me, if we would pursue a sale. And for some reason, I have not heard of anyone saying, oh, we had an offer from this person, we had an offer from that person. If so, maybe I'm missing it, and I will apologize for that. But no one has ever conveyed to me that, oh, we've had 3 offers on the property. So Phil, once again, I'm not gonna do this. You're here. Sole member of the board here. I'm not gonna, but please, just,
You know, I understand your.
I love you, Phil, and you know what I'm saying.
I understand your point. The same thing saying with you. And I mean, I think we have to meet in a couple of months and get the,
Probably a little sooner, because we missed the August meeting, right? So
whenever. We have to meet, get the full board in here and have some pretty frank and open discussion. And I think we should do that.
Sounds like.
I can't say any more than that. Thank you.
Nor should you, Phil, because you're here by yourself, and I understand that.
I think the subcommittee chair got the message, and he's going to try and move it forward so that we don't wait. And if we have to take action where it requires
Dave's answer.
a special town meeting, then we'll deal with it.
Mr. Chairman, so on that point, I was going to chime in a second time. What did you specifically mean with May? You're going to wait for May? What do you mean by that?
May town meeting,
For?
town meeting vote.
For?
there's no article, no ask, right?
Well, there's an open town meeting warrant coming up in May.
For what though?
But that's the point. It's not to sell, it's not to shut it down, it's
As
to,
a reminder, at the meeting that Chris was just talking about, they have authorization to sell. I don't think there's any further town meeting action at this point unless it would be for further funding.
Good point.
but wait a minute, they have authorization to pursue a sale.
Yes.
Yes.
They can't sell anything.
It's in the trustees' hands at this point.
So they could accept any bid?
But they have to go through chapter 30B procurement law, but yeah.
Okay.
I could sell it tomorrow if they wanted to.
Okay, I stand corrected. I thought if we were selling town property, town meeting had to specifically vote on it.
They got the authorization to do so.
That was enough at the last town meeting?
Yes.
Okay, even better. So we'll take it up as soon as you can put together the meetings and bring the trustees here. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank you,
All
Phil.
right. Yeah, good seeing you guys. Okay, have a good meeting.
Capital Subcommittee report. I have not heard of any surprises. Rick, any big surprises coming on capital yet?
I have one,
Okay,
but I will
so
hold it unless you want it now
Well,
from the
the
sewer
next-
department. It's up to you,
Capital Subcommittee report is done. Sewer Department.
yeah. I was going to save it for that portion of the meeting regarding the subcommittee updates, but I have received a request from the sewer department relative to their jet. And for the benefit of those who don't know, like me, 24 hours ago, the jet is a truck that they use to, it's like a giant roto-rooter, and it cleans all backups on emergency basis. It does a lot of preventive maintenance work, and the truck is breaking down. It is 23 years old. They are trying to rebuild a motor in that pump right now, and they have, excuse me, they are having difficulty finding parts for the motor because it's so old. So they asked to put in a request, town meeting article to purchase a new jet truck. And I said, put it in the town meeting article, we will discuss it, but no promises, because this fell out of the sky. I asked them for their capital plan every year, and I've got their projects, but this is the first we heard of this truck replacement. One of the problems is the cost. Right now, it's pegged at about $350,000 to $370,000. The other fly in the ointment is it takes a year
I was
to
gonna say,
get.
what's the delivery?
1 year. And as I'm sure we're all facing with any capital project, if we go out and bond anything, those interest rates are a heck of a lot more now than they were 2 or 3 years ago. So, Al, you tell me what you want to do as far as capital planning. I just got this notification 2 or 3 days ago.
Go to Granger and get the repair parts.
Believe me, they're trying. I mean, we have a backup now. We're in trouble.
We've got a week and a half.
I think they said the warrant closes. Rick gone? Did he go out?
October 2nd, they're hoping to vote on it.
Okay, I thought they were going to close at the end of this week.
Closes the end of the week.
End of this week, right? Yeah. So I advised them to put it in, just to get it in there. I mean, we'll see what
Let's
happens,
Set up
but,
a meeting with the capital subcommittee.
okay.
I mean, today's already Wednesday, sometime next week.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, another one, and I apologize that we're.
No, no,
But I apologize, I apologize that I'm dropping another one in on you, is that I've been having some discussions with the IT department, and the IT department has done the gargantuan job of doing exactly what we wanted to for the last 5 years, of taking fire and police and combining them, which
Chris,
I think.
sorry to be rude, but can we finish off on sewer, and then
Oh,
we'll.
I thought you were done, that's why I asked you.
Yeah,
But I'm going to ask,
Yeah.
does anybody have any objection to us moving
I'm so sorry,
quickly
what did I ask
on a non-budgeted item? I assume this would come out of their enterprise fund.
we don't know. Because they have a very large project that a portion of it is bonded, a portion of it is coming out of their stabilization fund.
Oh, stabilization.
Yeah. So we need to talk.
Okay. Does anybody see any objections to us talking next week? And we'll talk to Czar, Rick, about maybe extending a day or two so we can have time at Capitol to go over this.
Well, Al, you don't have to go over it right away. Let's get it in the warrant. We can meet a month from now.
Okay,
Oh, fair point. Then you can.
fair point. Get it in the warrant so
Drop
that
it
it's
out.
up for discussion.
Yeah, just get a placeholder, so.
Okay, Rick, here's a surprise.
Again, that's not what I'm aware of, so.
Right, we just found out. Okay,
Neither will we.
so let's do that and we'll work together to get.
2 or 3 weeks, whatever, sure.
Okay, sorry, Chris.
No, I apologize. I asked Bobby if he was done, so I guess that was my mistake. So anyway, what I was saying is we've been working on this integration with fire and police for, Al, how many years have we been doing that? And right now, the IT department is, to say they're overstretched, I think would be an understatement right now. So I think you're going to see, and I don't have numbers in front of me, but I think you're going to see a significant capital request from the IT department, just to give you a heads up. I think we're probably looking close to maybe 700,000.
I was gonna say, I thought we budgeted 650 for this.
Well, I think we're gonna need some additional funding for that, and I think, and once again, I don't wanna get into it, but you just brought up, would there be any questions about future capital? I just wanted to throw that out there, and at least get it on the table, and I think the capital subcommittee should ask the IT department to come in. But to me, and it was just a conversation, that I think it might be coming, but that integration with the police and fire has been way more extensive than I think anyone of us ever
Chris,
thought.
just to calm my nerves, we had said it would probably be around 650, but you still had 1 or 2 bids left.
That's correct.
Is that still accurate?
That is still accurate.
Okay.
So you talked to him, that's all I wanted to know,
No,
sir.
no, we've been going
And for the
along.
record, I just wanted to get it out there.
We had the heart attacks when he first came in and mentioned that
I figured, sir, but I just wanted to put
the
it on
systems
TV.
that Paul Revere put in were state-of-the-art back then, but
Yep.
we had to redo everything because of the fiber. And now I understand there's another added.
Yeah, on top of the compliance issues and police reform that are requiring these changes, Verizon has just let us know that they're going to be cutting our copper access as of June 2024. So we don't have much of a choice but to upgrade everything, even even albeit compliance and legal issue, we're going to lose our connections to our radio systems and our emergency systems as of June 2024 if we don't upgrade.
And that's new news.
That's new news.
When we ran through it and voted,
I didn't even hear about it.
everything was copper.
Fiber anyways.
A lot of the new systems were all going fiber. So we thought it prudent from a compliance standpoint, but you know, that compliance doesn't bother me as much as from a practical standpoint. We had to upgrade our systems to allow fiber so that we could actually talk to the fire trucks instead of carrying tin cups and wire and yelling a lot.
Smoke signal.
But now, as it turns out, whether we had voted it or not, we don't have a choice because our whole system would come down when they cut the copper wire out.
The surrounding towns have already gone digital, like Bellingham is already on fiber now. And if we don't do that, we're going to not just lose the radio communication, but lose our ability to communicate with the other towns as well.
Okay, any other subcommittee reports?
One more on Capital L. You have all the pieces for fire, so Chief Nelson emailed us back in August.
Yes.
And I think we have each one on there. I just want to make sure. The burn building was the only one that.
There was one surprise, the burn building, but a month ago, he updated us. I'll send out another
I just
update.
want to make sure you had that one as well.
Yep. Any other subcommittee reports?
You did ask for that?
Well, I'm going to find out sooner or later. We have a listed review of the warrant articles, if available. They won't be available till October 2nd,
Expecting a vote that night, and we'll be available the next day.
and then we'll put together the FinCom report so we can all look at it and have Dr. Nicholson correct grammar of the person who writes it. All kidding aside, thank God you do. Much rather have you find the mistakes than 200 town meeting
I'm the
members.
only one that does that.
You're the only one that does it effectively.
Might be.
I do
My
get,
grammar's not good enough to correct stuff, so.
I get comments like, well, that's silly, but I don't include those in the town meeting report.
You're trusting a guy with a southern accent, huh?
Massachusetts, South?
Southern New England.
Southern New England. Okay, the other item on tonight's list, I sent around the subcommittee assignments, and I'll apologize publicly to Lauren because every time somebody would send her a note and she says, I could do that subcommittee, I just kept logging it in till she called me and said, you know, you've got me down for 6 subcommittees. So for a newbie, that's a little heavy. But the question is, does anybody have any changes? Do they want to move from one subcommittee to another? Well, that was easy. That is it, except for the finance director. And for once, we look forward to seeing you. This is that time of year when we're happy to have you come in.
They are on the agenda too.
Thank you.
Forward to everybody on the Zoom.
Yes, everybody on the FinCom got one of these today.
Thank you, Tommy.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And also the Zoom people, we have the red books available, which is the financial snapshot as of June 30th, 23.
First time we've had them this quick. That's what a full staff
It is
does.
early, isn't it?
That's what a full staff does.
Question,
Brownie. Trust me, it was all my edda. I know it already, so don't even start.
That's what Zach.
Mr. Okay. Paul, is there any way we can get this electronically?
This
Yeah, the red book?
stuff is already, the red book? That was
Yes.
discussed.
I'll send it to you. I have it electronically.
Because I'd rather get it electronically and
I'll be honest with
save
everybody.
cost.
Have you guys always had it electronic?
No, yes. Now, listen, Zach and I had this conversation yesterday. Maybe we should start distributing it electronically.
Yes.
Anybody who wants a hard copy,
Request it.
we'll have it. But
I agree.
we can cut it in half, the order, cut it in half.
Yeah.
And I can have it out there for you in the morning. Yes,
I think going forward, unless
Okay.
anybody raises
Great call, Mr. Chairman.
I'd rather see it be defaulted to electronic, and then if there's anybody like me that comes from the stone tablet age, we can request it.
Before I even send the order out for these books, I download it onto the laptop, so I'll send it out to everybody tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll give it to
Dr.
you.
Taylor, what good news do you have for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we put together a packet. We did provide it via email before tonight's meeting for those on Zoom, and Tom just handed out the hard copy. This was distributed via the chairman a couple weeks ago when I got the free cash certified. So I just put this in the packet to kind of lead our conversation. We'll go through it relatively quickly. And then I know this committee likes to see where free cash is derived from, so that's going to be the majority of our discussion tonight. And as you can see, I brought Chris and Tom with me. They're going to handle a couple important points. So first page is just, I'll go quick with the basic formula that derives free cash. It's your undesignated fund balance, which is basically your retained earnings in normal lingo. And then this first page here subtracts out your outstanding balances for personal property and real estate, and then adds in deferred revenue at the end, which is the exact same thing as taking undesignated fund balance less your overlay, which is kind of your like doubtful accounts and abatements and veteran exemptions and whatnot. The last piece is deficit funds. So as a reminder, we have like 450 different special revenue funds. Many of them are allowed to go deficit and do. They do all the time. We certify every single week when we do the warrant process that said deficits are allowable under Mass General Law, and no different at the end of the year. We have a number of them. As a reminder, I've discussed this before, the process with free cash is a snapshot as of June 30th. So these are all the deficits that are there. We have until September 30th to clear whatever deficits are outstanding with money that comes in as cash receipts that Chris collects. Obviously, we're not at September 30th right now, so we could stretch further, and all that would do would be a higher free cash balance. So to be completely honest with you, this is one area where like I have some discretion on what the number may be. The vast majority of these deficits are grants, and that's under Chapter 44, Section 53A, which allows it to go deficit. And then if money happens to come in, many of them are reimbursable, or others are just on like quarterly payments and whatnot. I can clear them. I opted not to clear quite the few. That's why you see them, because our free cash balance is pretty significant this year. So my view, that just kind of kicks it a little bit to next year, right? So,
Jack, could you explain some of these line items, like 186 immigrants for $100,000? What does that mean?
So Title III, I don't know what 186 means. I don't know what that means. It's a federal grant, I'll tell you that. It's codes that go with DESE. I don't know what it specifically means. Like the one with the 94-142, I personally don't know what it means. I monitor them to make sure that they do clear. Besides that, that's school administration. Like, I don't know specifically what it is. Yeah.
In the Title I, Title II?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with like special needs and whatnot. Oh, I bet you almost every one of the ones you just said in one specific special education.
Police off-duty, $204,000.
Yep, that's the, when you see people doing details. So we front the money, we obviously pay them, that's payroll, and then we turn around and bill the vendors.
I know a lot of people have asked questions as to how come we have police on the streets doing details. Isn't that costing us a lot of money? Isn't it the opposite?
It's costing the vendors that are performing the money. It costs us nothing. That's why this is set up as a special revenue.
But it's not even, it costs us nothing. My understanding is we charge
That's right.
the vendors.
Yep.
So we're making money.
We have an.
Well, when you pay your electric bill, you're paying for it.
Right, I mean, you pay for it whenever.
Living in the municipal world. I forgot who just said it, but we charge an administrative fee, and it's actually,
It's in there, yeah.
the admin fee goes to the general fund.
Yeah,
So it actually generates income.
It generates income to the town
Yes,
and quietly takes money out of your pocket
Yeah.
anyway. One way or another, somebody's got to pay for it.
one way or another. This account always shows up. It's always deficit because we pay first and we seek the reimbursement. So it's always deficit. There's a perfect example. I probably could have cleared that. Opted not to this year. You know?
Well, again, when I look at the next page and I see that we have a few pennies of excess free cash, I don't know that we need to have more than $8 million.
Yeah, and I don't know what it may be next year, so all that tells me is I probably have a starting point of 200K for next year.
Just
So,
smart, it's smart spending.
right, so we got it certified at $8.247 million. A little bit better than last year. Last year was 7.9-ish, somewhere around there. Not our record. Our highest since I've been here has been 12 million, so somewhat of a sweet spot, if you will.
Yeah, but hats off to all the department heads, because it's them not spending the money.
To a degree. That's what we're going to get into next.
Okay.
Yep, and that's definitely a big chunk of it, for sure. But there's other pieces, and we're going to go into detail there. So 8.2 million free cash. It's available now. It's certified. It's always been an intricate part of our funding at the special town meeting. And I would probably suggest, like we did last year, we know we have a feasibility study coming. We should not spend all this money this October. We should save some for May, when we may have the decision to have to fund that, where we typically don't fund something that large in May, as we all know. So we
But if
should,
we follow, historically, we've put a third towards stabilization-ish, a third towards the capital projects like stormwater and all that. No way do we have enough capital money to fund. And the other third towards tax relief. If we stay on those kind of, whether it's 25 or 30%, feels right.
yep.
Because, you know, as somebody once said, I want my change. This is not money that is ours. This is the taxpayer money, so giving them back a big chunk of it feels right. Putting away, because we've been, God bless, we've been lucky. And a lot of it's good management, a lot of it's good fortune, but putting away more in the stabilization account when we've got a high school coming, just makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And we'll discuss that plan in more detail in the meetings to come. Next page, at the same time, when we get free cash certified, we also are required to get retained earnings certified for the two enterprise funds. So we have the sewer department, where retained earnings came in at a little over $3 million. Now, it's important, I think, I had stepped up, but I think Mr. DeVito was mentioning this. It's important to understand that the sewer department, we have a stabilization fund specific or designated to the sewer that is established. Chris has it invested. So that's not the full picture of the money we have available for reserves for the sewer department. We have not taken that step with the water department, but this one, we should be celebrating a little bit. I certainly am. I'm happy about it, where we have added to undesignated retained earnings. Our number is 2.7 million. That had been part of the plan from when we even pitched potentially purchasing the water companies at town meeting, that we need to be building up retained earnings, and we are. So I am very happy with that outcome. It's a good thing, and hopefully over the next couple of years we continue to do so, because as we know, infrastructure is a very important part of the water department. And the two reserves that we have will quickly be depleted, which is the bond proceeds and the ARPA money, which we have already appropriated. It's not depleted, but it's been appropriated.
But that 2.7, unlike the sewer, that's real money.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yes.
It's totally different than sewer.
Yes.
That's
Correct.
real money.
That's real money. Yep, correct.
How is the sewer not real money?
Well, I'm just saying that the retained earnings that's certified is not the entire picture. We also
There's even more.
There's more, yeah. With water, there's not more. You know, that's the number.
That was what I was,
Yeah, yep. Okay, if you flip a couple pages and you get to the one that says, determine if free cash calculation for fiscal '23 is reasonable. I think it's the 7th page in. It's like this. All right. So I go over this each year. There's a test outside of the actual calculation that is to basically display not only to myself, but to the Department of Revenue, who certifies free cash, that what I'm submitting is a reasonable calculation without going through and auditing everything and whatnot. So this also is what will drive the derivative of free cash. So couple of components here, and as I mentioned, I'm going to turn to my right and to my left, and they're going to explain in a little more detail, because I'm going to say it at a high level right here. So you mentioned turn back of expenses. That is definitely one component of it, and as you see on here, it's called unencumbered unexpended appropriations. That came to $2.7 million. All right, so you might look at the expense reports and think, oh, it's more money than that, but many times we may have something procured that took place on June 29th, which was in that fiscal year. It wasn't able to make the cleanup warrant or any warrant payable. So what we do is encumber it and roll it into the next fiscal year. As you see here, add unencumbered funds. And we'll mention encumbrances in a moment, but I'm going to turn this over to Tom Brown, Town Accountant, and he's going to give you a little detail of what made up the major departments that made up $2.7 million, which is a couple pages after this.
And thank you, and Mr. Chairman and members. It's the page that has highlighted in yellow on the top right. It's the top budget turnbacks by percentage. Under the ending balances column, I have highlighted a couple of larger balances there because I wanted to go over a couple of larger ones. But and we've talked about this every year, where the total beginning GL budget was 58 million. We used 56. There's 2.7 left over. That means based on total amount of budgeted of 100%, they're turning back 4.5% roughly, which means before we started our budgeting process, we came 95% to the target goal. So of the 100%, we have returned back from various departments that are listed there 4.5%, 4.61%.
Let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not the school in here, which basically has spent all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, but no.
No, but overall, we hit a 95% on our projection.
Yes.
Kind of hard to beat that.
And keep in mind, 85% of our budget is personal service.
Salaries.
And
85, Tom, huh?
yeah, and pretty much.
Including benefits.
Yeah, right.
And this turnback is mainly personal services. And there were some transitions in each departments where department head left, new person comes in at a lesser pay scale. We had a couple of retirements, and there you go. And as you can see, some of the larger ones, if you look at employee health insurance, that was one of the largest.
Yep.
All right. Police turned back 180,000, but as a percentage of their total budget, it was really a 2.5% basically. So, yeah, I listed them from highest to lowest. So, if anybody has any questions on any of them, by all means.
The health insurance,
Excuse me.
That far column on the right is very helpful.
It is,
Thank you.
Callie, yeah.
the health insurance, any surprises? Was it less people or better rates or?
No, as this board committee knows, we kind of purposely put extra money in there because it's so versatile. You don't know if many people could get married and take it from a low single rate into a family plan. 1.1 is a little high. We did discuss this when it was budget time. And because at that time, I knew it probably was going to come in around $1 million during budget time, just based on projections if it stayed, and it did. So what we had done for this fiscal year is we recognized that was too large of a reserve or a cushion, if you will. So we did pare it back, and hoping it doesn't backfire. It should not, but we shouldn't expect a number that large next year.
Veteran services, is it just Mr. Pillar doing his normal outstanding job, or did something change? 'Cause that's
I believe that's the case.
100,000.
Yeah.
And I asked John about it today, and yeah, we're pretty much streamlining. And I think veterans may have gotten some help through the state and federal, where it didn't have to come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, right, we were looking at a document today where
Well, it just- I remember the years before Mr. Pillar, that we were always facing needing more money, and when all of a sudden John comes in and starts doing his magic, my concern was, are we shortchanging the veterans? And then you hear, no, we're actually getting them better service. So when I see a $100,000 drop, that's why I ask, is it John doing his magic or did something change?
Yeah, it's him doing his magic. He does a fantastic
Demographics
job.
are going down.
Yeah.
The demographics are going down. So the World War II veterans and the Korean War veterans, there's not a lot left.
But there's still enough to eat up $300,000.
Well, you have all the veterans.
Yeah.
But those were the biggest wars that had the most people involved.
Okay. And Norfolk Aggie, I mean, that's still $25,000 a kid, isn't it?
Yes.
So did we have 4 less kids, Michael, or?
It's
do
the
you
first
know?
time I've seen this number, so I'll be looking into that.
Okay. Because I remember it cost us almost as much to send somebody to Norfolk Aggie as it would to send them to UMass Amherst.
Yep.
And the other one, well, the police you mentioned, that's a surprise number. $184,000 returned.
But again, 2%.
No, it's a
but
great
still,
number.
yes,
I
yeah.
think a chunk of it was dispatches too.
Because we used to get $82.15 back.
Well, I will say about Chief Falvey, he's very conscientious about it. He's in our office every other day, worried about something, so he's done a good job.
Yeah, well, the person before him knew every dollar too.
Tom sure did.
So Tom
Yes.
trained him well.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the,
Obviously, the reserve fund, first one on there, we had a couple that we tapped into, but that's a turn back of 77. Unemployment is another one where we just don't know. And school had a decent amount, more than usual this year, but still overall was 114K.
had an amount more of what? Unemployment?
Yep. Expense. I don't know the circumstances, but
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people don't understand because you think with companies, you pay a certain percentage into unemployment. With municipal, my understanding is you pay nothing. And then when it's claimed, you pay it all.
You have the option to do either or. We pay as we go, pretty much, but you do have that, we do have the option to pay the FUTA tax if we choose to.
which I would say worked very well, with the exception of the COVID year. But I think everyone got hit with that.
That's why unemployment and workers' comp are two things that you just, I don't care if you have a crystal ball. You can't ever tell what that number's gonna be, you know?
Any further questions on expense?
Any other questions?
Okay, so the second piece, which I will talk to a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn over to Chris, is the other component of, large component of free cash is revenue. And historically, we try to be very conservative with our local receipt estimations. To the point where some of these figures are not allowed to be budgeted because the theory is you actually already did. And what I'm talking about is tax liens, which Chris does a fantastic job of collecting. So if you turn your page to the next one, looks like this is revenue drivers in excess of budget. The top half is exactly what I'm saying. We have absolutely no budget on it, but money always comes in. The very first one, a little different this year, and we will see it recurring for a 5-year program, is this opioid settlement where Massachusetts, and I believe others, I think every state, had gotten a class action suit, and we are now receiving money from Big Pharma for the opioid crisis. So last fiscal year, we got $235,000. Now, it's a little bit funny, I'll go spend a little time on this. It's funny, usually when this happens, so there's an obligation as we have to use this to fight the opioid crisis. Usually when that happens, the state will authorize a special revenue fund. So absent that act, all money must go to the general fund. That's why it's here. It goes to the general fund, even though we are required to appropriate it. What they should have done was allow us to put it into a special revenue fund and just spend it without further appropriation for that specific purpose. They did not. So as a reminder, at the last, I think it was October meeting, we had established the Family Services Unit with Robbie Tassino and Amy Leone, and I'm hearing great things about it, but we had tapped out of free cash purposely because we knew this money was gonna be here. There's a reporting requirement with it. It's due Friday. Rick just submitted it yesterday. So we should see a little bit more recurring money here. Chris and Rick had opted where this money could have been distributed over a number of years, or they had the option of getting it now. We said, give it to us now. So we did, so this will be the bigger number. So that's why you see this large figure here that's a little abnormal, and we didn't know it was coming.
This is the money from Purdue, the Sacklers, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's another couple that are gonna jump on board too, but yes. Then, as I was mentioning, tax liens, I'm gonna turn it over to Chris to maybe mention that. You wanna talk?
Sure.
You wanna mention the,
Tyler case?
yes.
Yep. So tax lien, so usually in tax title, we usually average every year roughly around $2 million in tax revenue that hasn't been collected. So we have liens on these parcels. There's probably about 80 parcels in tax title right now. The liens are secure. They're secured with the instrument of taking, so we don't have to worry about it. We do get 16% on this money, so it's not like we're not getting anything. However, that number sometimes is skewed a little bit because we do have some properties that have been in tax title for so long. The original owner has since deceased. We can't find heirs. It's nearly impossible to try to foreclose on it without having attorney expenses go through the roof. So it just sits there. Eventually, we will get them taken care of as time comes.
What percentage, Chris? You say $2 million.
So of what percentage of those? Probably like 200,000, so
Oh,
not a lot.
So it's not significant.
No. What we did establish about 5 years ago, maybe even a little longer than that, was the ability for the town to enter into a payment plan with individuals. So when individuals come into tax title right away, there's a letter that's sent out to them by our tax title attorney, and it gives them the option to come in, meet with me, and set up a 3-year, 36-month payment plan. It's a 25% down payment, and the only caveat they have to do is keep up with their current taxes. Right now, I have 15 people on a payment plan. I had 20, 5 have since are free of tax title, so it does work. It keeps people in their homes, it keeps the tax money still coming in, and it's a win-win for both situations, because the last thing I want to do is issue a foreclosure judgment on.
Well, the last thing
on a
you want
family.
to do is throw Milford people out of their homes.
Right. I mean, there are cases I have to do it, and don't get me wrong,
I didn't say
do it.
never, I said the last thing.
Recently, you may not be aware of it, there was a case out in Minnesota. It was Tyler versus Minnesota. It went to the Supreme Court Justice. The Supreme Court Justice ruled in favor of Tyler. So now things are starting to change. We're waiting for more guidance, but basically, previously, if I foreclosed on a house and I went to sell it at auction, and I sold the house for $200,000, the town would keep the $200,000.
I was going to ask you about that.
The Supreme Court just ruled that unconstitutional, so right now, I can't, if I go to sell a house at auction for $200,000 and the owner only owed $10,000, I have to give the $190 back.
Unless
They're
there's an
now
outstanding mortgage. That has to be
Well,
paid.
that's a different, they would already be paid, the bank would pay that before.
We only want the money he owed us.
No, that's not the way it used to work.
We
past,
made
No, I'm
we
just
got it.
saying, but
a lot of
now,
money.
We kept it all. Every municipality is.
But it's the right thing to do.
What'd you say?
what, Lauren?
That's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. I mean, we're only entitled to what's owed
Right.
to the town of Milford. We're not entitled, it's called equity theft for a reason.
Yeah, but it was the law until now.
Right.
I want to stay away from that word equity theft because there's a gray area there on which, depending on which municipality you go to, a lot of municipalities looked forward to that extra revenue. That's how they stayed afloat.
Are you kidding?
We're lucky enough we don't. Me personally, I think that we're doing the right thing by giving the excess equity back after all our expenses are covered.
No, you gotta cover our expenses, cover everything, but
Our legal fees, my time.
more than is owed us just doesn't feel right.
But it was the law, so
I
we
know
didn't
it's
have
the
an
law.
option.
Is
We
that-
didn't have an
Oh,
option.
we didn't have an
We
option?
we didn't have an option prior to. Massachusetts is one of 15 states that has the 100% equity law that kept with,
Still in effect.
technically, it's still in effect right now. The directive right out there right now is kind of just hang tight, pretty much, until there's more guidance that's set forth. What we have to be careful of, and what we're waiting to hear, is whether that Supreme Court case was going to put any retro date back to when a homeowner could come and make a claim against a municipality. For us, fortunately, we should be out of the clear because we haven't really done anything in the past 3 years. I think 2021 was the last time we did an auction, so we should be free and
That's got
clear.
potential to be some serious
Right,
dough.
we are working, so my Treasurer Collector Association, along with Mass Municipal Association, along with Mass Lawyers, are working on a law or legislation to be passed with procedures on how we would like to see it. As far as the Treasurer Collector, we're looking at policy and how to proceed more than whatever the legal stuff is for
Chris,
that.
help me understand, did the law forbid us to do the right thing? I mean, if you owe me $100
Yeah.
and I collect 200, did the law forbid me from giving you back the 100 that?
So basically, the math, what happened was, if you're gonna get foreclosed on for owing taxes, they wanted to penalize you, and they penalized you pretty good. Because right now, what's gonna happen is, and I have exposure to 364 other treasurer collectors in the state, so we all talk. 99% of the people, what's the point of paying taxes now if they can just go into tax title, know the town will foreclose, and then it's going to be their own real estate agent because they're going to have to sell it, and they're going to get the proceeds, right? So that's the issue for a lot of these smaller communities are having, because they don't have the resources to go through all that. I mean, to go through a whole tax foreclosure process takes probably a year and a half to 2 years, just before it gets into land court, and God knows how long it can take in there because they're so backed up. So right now, it's going to get turned around. It's going to be treated like if a bank foreclosed on you. Right now, bank foreclosures, that's what they do. They sell your house and you owe a mortgage, they pay off the mortgage, and then they give you the equity. So it's all going to be level playing field. So we're waiting on that. So foreclosure numbers could be down for quite some time until the state gives us some guidance on what to do. But as far as that concerned, the tax liens redeemed, that number should go up because the lien's going to stay on there until the person either sells their home or unfortunately passes away, and the heirs will go then sell it, and they'll have to pay off the lien before they can get a clear title. So, go ahead.
Good question, and I'm asking you to look into the future. Would you say that this ruling now almost is going to say that we're going to have a boatload more foreclosures because now they know that they're not going to lose everything, they're only going to lose a little bit? I'm just asking, I don't know the answer, but I didn't know if maybe you thought so.
Yeah, yes and no. You could, to the average person out there, they probably haven't even heard of this, right? They're,
Okay.
Probably going to say.
It's got potential,
When they get their, yeah.
We're gonna get
If they
our
are late and they get their first, they get their first demand notice, they're probably going to get nervous or whatever, and they'll come and pay it off right away. To some of the other people that want to play that game, it could work out in their advantage. But at the same time, they're paying 16% a day in
I was
interest.
gonna say,
So I'm also going to get a junk mail thing in the mail that tells me, hey, if you've been foreclosed on, I can take care of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It came about from, there's a company, there's a big time company called Talage Lincoln Towage out there that used to buy tax liens from municipalities across the nation, and they would go, so in Massachusetts, you have to wait 6 months. So as soon as 6 months and 1 day came, they were foreclosing on you, and they would get properties for $10,000, $15,000 and then flip them for $200,000 or $300,000. So this is how it came about.
Sounds like you're on the right track, but I certainly hope that we never make a penny that isn't owed us off Milford people.
We don't. I mean,
No, I'm just saying, this idea of, you owe me $100, I'm gonna sell your house for 200, I'm gonna keep the 200,
yeah.
just doesn't
Well,
feel.
before we had no choice.
Well, no, I mean, when the law's the law, I'll buy that, but once we do, I'd like to have a discussion and understand.
And there's lots of time that passes before that
Yeah,
comes.
exactly, I
This
understand.
isn't like it's next week. you're
Just as
banging
Lauren
on.
said, doesn't feel right.
And Mr. Chairman, it takes a lot before I put someone into land court. I mean, you really have to not be responding to me and not be willing to work, and yeah, there's a lot. I'm pretty lenient with a lot of the people. I let them get the benefit
No,
of the
Chris,
doubt.
God
so.
forbid if we couldn't feed our people, service our people, we have to do things that aren't optimal, but the department heads and the expenses and everything fall into line so far that we don't have to be, I'll say, nasty with our own people.
All right, so enough of the negative talk on that. The next line item down, earnings on investment, on
On
investments.
the budget now, budget.
This is on the budget, back on that page. So we budgeted $80,000 back in early February of 2022.
Earlier.
Earlier than
This
that.
is tax recap time.
All right,
This would have
so-
been like this time last year.
All
put
right,
it
so
that
this
way.
time last year.
Yeah.
So this time last year, rates were below 1% for anything, money market, CDs, whatever. If you go, there's a graph on the next page. There's a graph. So this is just on general fund money, not on our stabilization. So from July of 2022 to June 30th of 2023, our general fund balance averaged about $55 million. Clearly in November, February, May, and August, that amount, those averages kind of went up to about a little over 60 because those are when the tax bills are due. Okay? So if you look in July, the first column is July, that's July of 2022. So we had about $55 million spread across all the banks that I use. And we took in interest of $22,000. So the interest rates were pretty low. You can see it kind of climbs up a little bit in August, that's because of the tax revenue. But then right about the October, November timeframe of 2022, we saw the rates, they exploded. They went from 0.25 all the way up into the 3s, to the 4s, to the 5s. So what I did, and we're still at that point. So basically, I took a lot of our excess general fund money. I took $3 million and invested them in treasury bonds that at that time were right around the 4% mark, are now around the 5% mark. So we're, each month on that $3 million, we're bringing in about, $20,000, $25,000 a month. I also moved some other monies. There was some great CD rates that are coming out, short-term CDs between 6 and 9 months. I think I have 3 banks that are right now at 5.05, and I have about $5 million in each of those. So I'm constantly working with banks. I just had a meeting today upstairs. 7 of my banks were there out of the 12 that I use were there, and they were continuing to talk about these CD rates. They are expecting another interest rate hike coming up soon, so I kind of backed off on the 6 months. I'm down to 3 months a little bit because I'm going to wait, and then I'll just move it over. As this money in these CDs matures, their money markets are up there at 4 or 5%, so it's just going right back into the same rate. So I'm kind of playing the game a little bit with it, and until the market turns, the money is safe 110%. It's not, all the banks are within FDIC, DIF. We have now are using IntraFi, which when the Silicon Bank in California went down, banks started using this IntraFi system. Basically, it takes, if you have $1 million in a CD or $1 million in an account with one bank, every night it sends $250,000 to 3 other banks, and then it comes back in.
Really?
And it's keeping you under, and it's keeping your money safe. It just got blessed about 8 months ago by the DOR, so before it was kind of a gray area because some of the banks they were using had ties to international companies, and we all know the legal list, we can't invest in international companies. But the DOR since has blessed it since the Silicon Valley Bank and the other bank in New York that went down. So our money is safe. We're always watching it. You know, I would love to have months like May where we're taking in $160,000 in interest, and I would love to do that, 12 months out of the year. But eventually, we will see, we won't see $965,000
Flip side is it
interest.
costs us more money to borrow.
Yes.
Right, that's the flip side. Right now, we don't have any borrowings. I
And you're
know.
more liquid with the money markets, so that's a great.
So
Yeah, but there's a school coming.
there's a school coming, but I can't control interest
Right.
rates.
We also have the ability now, if you recall, that bands bond anticipation notes can go 10 years. So we can start the project and strike when it's right, hopefully.
And then just another quick factor before I'm all set. This was only the general fund. Our stabilization, we had budgeted $815,000 in gains. We actually came in at $1,051,000. So both sides of the revenue or investments were positive. They did great. We killed it. We're always beating the benchmark. We have great advisors with our both general fund and stabilization accounts. We use Bartholomew, Rockland. Those are the 2 biggest ones. They're in here quarterly. These guys see me. I'm always meeting with them. They're a phone call away if I have a question.
Am I reading this right, that we made over $1 million in hotel taxes?
Yes.
Yep.
And that's where our number was pre-pandemic.
I was gonna say, before the pandemic, we were at a
Yeah, to Paul's point, we've caught up, yes.
You can see the reflection of how robust the building trades are as well.
Yes,
Business
and
admits and
that's
everything else.
been like
Strong for a while.
4 years in a row now.
Yeah.
So when we budgeted, we didn't think it was gonna continue, but it certainly has. You know,
Thank you, Chris.
At one point, to play off of what Chris was saying, he was mentioning the amount of money in the general fund, which does sound staggering, and that leads me to something I wanted Tom to talk about. So when we do, one part of the undesignated fund balance is encumbrances, as I said. Town meeting articles are what we call auto encumbrance, because the only way those go away is we have town meeting close them, or they're depleted. Otherwise, they're on auto encumbrance. And last year's encumbrance total was 6 million, this year 12, so it doubled. And there's some reasons why, and Tom's gonna mention a couple of them.
Yeah, and as you know, every year I come in and say, this town meeting, I'm gonna close out 180,000 in articles because either they've been expended or they've been completed. In this particular case, the 6 million represents approximately, we have 1.5 million that was transferred over fiscal year 23 to 24 for the geriatric authority. Now, you made the inference earlier about 1.25. That's because I think in July, they came for 250.
Yes.
So that was one, and this is a timing point as of June 30th. 1.5 million geriatric authority. The Central Street Bridge, we still have 1.5 million in that article to be used. So that's 3. The modular classrooms, we originally encumbered $4 million because at the time, that's what we were hearing about a number. Come to find out, when it's all said and done, the total agreement came in at, and I have it, 1.7 million.
All 4?
Yeah.
Once they get installed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still.
So we encumbered 4 million, of which 2 million is going back in.
Yeah.
So that'll be a closeout come hopefully in May. But yeah, that was ratcheted down to 1.7 something
We
million.
got the same number of modular classrooms we were expecting?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not done yet, but they're working on. And the other one was the upgrading of the high school turf and track field. There was $1 million left in there as of June. If I'm not mistaken, there's been some work done in July on it. I haven't looked to see how much
Yeah, I
was
think
spent.
the thing we want to look at is the money that is set aside for like geriatric authority, that's going to be spent.
We understand that, but it comes
So
over.
out of the 6 million, how much is, Brownie, how much is coming back to us? You say 3?
Well, no, I don't know
Yeah,
yet.
we don't-
Chances
we don't
are, all of
know
it's
that
gonna
yet,
be
but
spent.
There should be some. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I can't see Dave's hand, I see his shoulder. Sorry, Dave, hold on one second. No, I'm just trying to think, like, the Woodland. That money is probably coming back.
Well, the 2 million definitely is.
You know what I
But
mean?
there's still
So
probably
that's-
some incidental cost there, but
But it'll be 1 point something coming back.
Probably, yeah.
Whereas the geriatric authority, I wouldn't expect any of it to come back.
and some of these smaller ones may totally expend, but, yeah, certainly.
Yeah, so when you
Should be a high
present
number
it in
next
the
year.
future, it'd be nice if you give us a gut feel. I got 6, looks like possible 1.5 or 2 will come back. Dave, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Did you have your hand raised?
I did, thank you. Out of curiosity, I mean, it's good that that money's coming back to the modulars, but how does that happen? How do you have such a big disconnect between the 4 million and 1.7 million? It just, I mean, who's like estimating and like where's the estimate come from?
Was there additional funding that came in?
No, I won't speak directly on what exactly happened, but I think they obtained a quote from one company, but as you know, you do have to go through Chapter 30B, and the winning bidder was just that much lower. And I will say, it's not abnormal when we do sealed bids to see one bid literally 4 times as high as the winning bid.
We saw one today.
We saw one today, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why they weren't installed September 1st.
But in that case, when you have outlier bids,
Savings, I'll take it all the
we
time.
wouldn't budget against, if everybody's $100 and one guy's 300, we wouldn't budget 300 without some real due diligence.
Yeah, but what may have happened, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, is that maybe one bid ended up being that high one, but then when and I shouldn't even call it a bid, a quote
Yeah.
was high, and then when we actually bid the project, the winning bid was
Came
way
down.
lower, yeah. Yeah.
Well, as long as we didn't lose any quality, or as Carly said, the scope stayed the same, good for us.
I believe I even talked to Kathy Perry today, and I think they're only about 3 or 4 weeks out from having that project completed.
Any other questions that, and Dave, I apologize, but I can only see the side of you, I can't see your hands.
And it's not your good
That's on
side.
purpose.
You can see his right side.
Any other questions? Any other report?
Not just, I did provide the final cherry sheet just for your own viewing. I won't go there. It's pretty much stayed the same, fluctuated a little bit on revenue, fluctuated a little bit on assessments, as it typically does. Nothing material. But to follow on that last statement, as you recall, when we did our budgeting during the February, March timeframe, Paul, myself, and others, we used 80% of what the governor's budget would be. So on that, 80% of the increase, I will say that we appear to be well-positioned for this town meeting and frankly, the next.
What pilots do we have?
Payment in lieu of taxes?
Yeah.
Yep, it's, there's 2 of them, it's Housing Authority, it's a relatively small amount, but the shocker this past year is with the Milford Power Plant there. And they have an agreement where they basically have to pay a minimum of $1 million regardless of where the assessed value came in, and it dropped below, and I believe it was based on personal property. I could check with Den, yeah.
Yeah, so it came in at I want to say just around 900,000 or 915,000.
Yeah.
I think they paid 85,000 in.
Yeah, because I'm seeing $115,000.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
30 of it, about 25 to 30 of it is from the Housing Authority. It's the local and then the federal. And the remaining of that would be the power plant. They did come in, I think, around 915, between 915 and 920 as an assessed value. And per their agreement, it's $1
So
million.
the 70 grand is their floor.
Yeah, it's guaranteed million.
Guaranteed minimum,
Guaranteed
no
million.
matter what.
And what's kind of been funny is for a lot of 5, 6, 7 years, they've been over the million, so it hasn't been, I don't want to call it an issue, it's a benefit to us, but it has not generated this quote-unquote pilot.
On-street parking, 100 grand?
Let me go back to it.
94,000.
Suppose they wrote a lot of tickets. You know?
I think that's your parking bans. I think there was a lot of parking bans, and even though when the parking bans were on, it didn't really snow, and people still parked in the street, and you got your
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And special revenue for 300,000?
Yeah, so that is our net metering program. I think back in 2012, maybe 13, we had town meeting accept a net metering program where we partnered with Northbridge. We have a farm out there, and that's a number that fluctuates a lot, and apparently it was pretty sunny out.
MVE.
Not lately. Not lately.
Not recently.
motor vehicle excise for 2023.
Yeah.
How's our rainwater fund? Is that good? Because we got a good dosage today.
I'm sure the reservoir's full.
I think Dave Condry's quite happy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is your-
smokes.
The line below your motor vehicle is your police surcharge. That
Yeah.
was the flip side of that 200,000. That shows you what
The
the
admin
town,
fee.
the admin fee.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice, we get extra police on the street in case anything happens, and we make money.
Absolutely killing me today.
Any other questions?
Just a magnificent job by our departments here. Congratulations and thank you very much. You're doing a terrific work.
I want to echo the same thing. You guys, what an unbelievable job you do. And Chris, I'm not giving you any of the opioid thing, but the other 4 items on it, that's all you, man. That's seriously just incredible work by you in your office and all you guys. Now, the only thing that I will have to say, and I'm a broken record, and I've already said this to Zach, at $8.2 million, I don't think that everyone should all of a sudden start breaking out their checkbooks. We got a lot of things. We even talked about a couple things tonight about how we might have good expenditures in the future, and how you highlighted the great aspect of what we have done with free cash. So for people to see $8.2 million and all of a sudden say, I need a new lawnmower, I need a new truck, I need to do this, I think it's important, and like I said, I do it every year. Just understand that we run in a very, very expensive business. This doesn't mean that everybody has carte blanche on spending money. So
So no, and I think that's key because we have the 10-year plan for capital. And that's a governor on this idea of, we got 8.2 million, I need a gold toilet. You know, where in the plan was gold toilets? It wasn't. So far, we haven't run into it, but, you know, things will happen, like Bobby needed a new jet. You know, things like that happen. Thank God we got room to accommodate emergencies like that.
exactly.
Al, can I ask one question? Previously, we were talking about the feasibility study. Did we put money aside last year for that?
We put 1.5 million in the short term, not long term, whatever we call that account. But to Zach's point, we've done this over year after year where we've put money away, and then if we have a real good year, we use free cash to pay for it and just leave it. But yes, we had 2 earmarks that we all agreed. One was 1.25 for a turf field.
Snow and ice.
And one was 1.5 for the feasibility. And the logic there was that if the SBA came and said,
What's the monthly?
move,
No, Joe.
it's a lot easier to get things through if you already have the money tucked away than if you had a not-so-great year and you have to ask town meeting to pull money out of stabilization.
Is there any reason to think that 1.5 wouldn't be enough?
Yes. There is. Yep.
Well, we do the best we can. The 1.5 was the estimate 3 years ago.
Yep. That was more my question, is we haven't really
If it's
defined
2
that number.
million, we've made interest on that 1.5 for 3 years. You know, and Chris has banked that away. So one way or another, even if we had to come up with a couple $100,000 or so, it's not as painful. And if you do like Zach said, we've always kept a couple $1 million.
That short-term stabilization account, whatever you guys want to call, long-term stabilization capital account, whatever you want
It's
to.
good to have enough funds we can't even remember the names of them. That's actually a good thing, I
It's
think.
got 7.5 million in it, yes. So
Yeah, well, it started because of a Tui toy. When he said
The ladder truck. That's how
$1.1
it
million
started.
for a ladder truck, we all went gulp. Because we're budgeting back then $750,000 for all capital.
Right.
And then we paid for it in free cash.
We paid for it in free cash.
yeah, between all our stabilizations, I mean, even the sewer, the sewer was at 5.5, and that at Maytown meeting, I brought it down to 3.5 to offset some borrowing, and I think we're actually going to probably be able to not borrow for that Field Pond project, which is going to be a good thing.
Although that's going to be a wrinkle in it.
Right, so that truck might be a wrinkle, but we can figure that out.
You know,
Is that what it is for?
if the worst case we have to face is $400,000 surprise on sewer,
Not our worst town meeting.
you know, it's a tough nut. It's a lot of money. But $150 million budget, and if the worst case in years is 400,000, again, I don't feel terrible about it. I feel bad about it because I don't want to spend any money just to give Bobby a private jet.
It's 23 years old, Al, give me a break.
But, you know, you got to keep in mind, too, that the sewer commissioners have managed their money with all these huge increases.
Yes.
What, in
Triple digit.
9 years ago, we had
12?
12? We had an increase in sewer rates 12 years ago.
David has another question.
David, you got to use your right hand because I can't see your left.
Sorry, I gotta drop. I just don't want to be rude. I gotta drop off and catch my train home. So I gotta drop off. So
Okay.
great seeing everybody.
Good seeing you.
Thank you, David. We're just about done anyway.
You're going to lose your quorum now. Lose your quorum.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
We're okay?
We're okay. We need 8. We got 9.
We're going to adjourn
Okay.
anyway, Alan.
Before we have a motion to adjourn, do we have to vote on ratifying any executive committee actions during the summer?
Good point.
Didn't the exec committee vote to move money?
Yeah, but you vested the, not move money. We did the 33B transfer.
33Bs.
Yeah.
But in the past, I know legally we don't have
Ratify the
to.
vote. Yeah.
But we've done it just to show support for the exec committee.
I don't recall that, but I don't see any harm in it.
It can't hurt, Mr. Chairman.
Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Roll call. Lauren? Jerry? Joycey?
Yes.
Very well.
Yes.
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 Unanimous. Now I'll take your favorite motion.
What was that motion?
Hold on.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
To adjourn yet.
Well, how about a motion to adjourn, guys? Second. Roll call. Lauren?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn. Jerry? I think I see a thumbs up. Joyce?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Unanimous. Motion to adjourn is not debatable. We are adjourned.